Hi. In my last video, someone asked how I make split-screen video recordings in the sim, so I thought I'd show you how I do this. We'll need a couple of free tools. The first one is the flight recorder that allows you to accurately record a flight and play it back. I did a review and tutorial on using this application in another video that's linked in the description. If you're not familiar with this wonderful free utility, make sure to check out that video. There's also a link to download the application in the description. The other tool we will need is a video editor. I use an editor called Davinci Resolve, made by Blackmagic Design. They make a free version that will do everything we need. The free version just lacks some advanced features from the paid version, but other than that, it's fully functional and will work perfectly for this task. If you already use a video editor like Premiere that you're comfortable using, then you can skip portions of this video that talk about the installation of Resolve. I'll show you how to download and install it in this video. The link to download it is in the description. I'll assume you've already downloaded and installed the flight recorder application since I already covered that in my other video. You'll also need some method for recording your flight simulator session. I've found that using screen recorders such as the built-in one that comes with Windows in the Xbox Game Bar tool, you activate that with Windows G, it consumes resources on the PC and takes them away from the sim. In doing so, it can introduce reduced frame rates or stuttering, and this is true of any recording software that's running on the same PC with the sim. On my setup, I use a separate laptop to do the recording to offload all of that processing. I have an Elgato video recorder and I send my HDMI to the Elgato that then sends the video to the laptop for recording. This way, no recorder process is running on the PC that's running the sim. I realize that not everyone has the infrastructure and tools to do this, so you may have to use a normal screen recorder like the Xbox Game Bar. Once in the sim, I will start the flight that I want to record. In my previous video, I used a livery in one recording and omitted it on the other to make it easier to see that there were two different flights happening. For this demo, I'm just going to change the time of day, so there's no need to do the livery change. Many times I use slew to position the aircraft where I want the recording to start. Once at the location I want, I'll pause the sim. I make sure my time of day is 1100 hours or 11 a.m. local. Once paused, I press the Windows key to gain access to my taskbar at the bottom of the screen. This is where I have pinned the flight recorder. I'll then launch it and start my recording. In my last video, I did these recordings for the first clip in the sim in areas I knew would be updated in World Update 4. The second recording was after World Update 4 was installed to see the difference the update created. At this point, I'm not recording the sim's video yet. I like to create my recording first and then play it back afterwards to ensure that I'm happy with the recording. I'll use an external view here. At the end of the flight, I pause the sim once again, use the Windows key to switch back to the flight recorder and stop the recording. Once I'm happy with it, I save the recording as a file for later playback. I go ahead and play back the recording and record the video from the sim. Since the flight is paused at the beginning, I have a moment to move the mouse pointer off the screen to the lower right. I let the flight recording play back while I record the sim's video. Once the playback is finished, I stop my recording and switch back to the flight recorder app and tell it to stop, and then I pause the sim here. Once that's complete and I'm happy with the recording, I make my changes for the second clip. In this case, I'll set the time of day to 1600 hours or 7 p.m. local time. At this point, I could load the saved file into the recorder and play it back, but since I haven't exited the recorder, it still has the previous recording loaded, and I'll use that. Otherwise, if I had exited the recorder, I'd need to launch it again and load the flight recording that I'd saved. Now I unpause the sim, press the Windows key to bring up the already running flight recorder. I press the playback followed by pause very quickly. This way the flight recorder is ready to do the playback and the current playback is at pause. I start my video recording and then unpause the playback and capture clip 2. Once all of this is done, I'm ready to do my edit since I've recorded my 2 clips. Using the link in the description will take you to the support page over at Blackmagic Design. In this latest downloads section, you can scroll this list if you don't see a link for Resolve already listed. At the time of creating this video, we will use version 17.1.1, but that version may differ for you if you're watching this at a later date. Once you see the section for Davinci Resolve 17.1.1 update like this, click on the Windows link to start the download. Below this is the studio version of Resolve, which is the paid version. We'll use the free one here. Once you click on the Windows button, you'll get this form that they want you to fill out. If you're worried about privacy or whatever, you can just put bogus information into the form like I've done here. Once this is completed, click on the Register and Download button here. After the download is completed, you should have this zip file. Open up the zip file and there will be a single exe file inside of it. This is the installer. Go ahead and extract it to whatever location you like on your system. You can delete it after the install is completed. Once it's extracted, run the exe installer. It will take a moment for it to start up, so be patient. You'll get the usual Windows security warning for installing an app, so click Yes to continue. Now you'll be presented with the installation options dialog. Just accept the defaults and click the Install button. Again, be patient. It will take a little while to install. Once it's finished installing the prerequisite components, you'll get another dialog for the installation of Resolve itself. Click on Next, accept the license agreement, and click Next again. It'll ask you if the path that it intends to use to install the application is acceptable, and if so, click Next. Otherwise, click Change and choose a location that you prefer. The default is fine for me, so I just click Next. After all of that, you're ready to do the install, so click on the Install button. Once completed, you'll get this dialog box. Click on Finish to end the installation process. After this, it will perform some post-installation tasks, and finally, you're presented with this dialog box indicating that everything is complete. Click OK to exit the installer. It creates a shortcut on your desktop, so go ahead and launch the application. On this initial launch of Resolve, you'll get this screen offering to show you what's new in this version of Resolve. Just click Continue to get past it for now. You can always look at it later from the Help menu. Once Resolve is running, you'll be presented with the Project menu. Since we don't have any existing projects, our main option here is an untitled project. At the bottom is a couple of buttons labeled New Project, New Folder, and Open. The Open button will open whatever project is currently selected in the screen above it. New Folder lets you make a folder in the Project Manager to organize your projects, and the New Project button will start a new project. The difference between the New Project button and just double-clicking on the Untitled project is that the New Project will require you to give the project a name, whereas Untitled won't. Untitled can be useful if you just want to make a temp project, do some work, and then throw it away at the end. Even if you select Untitled, you can still save your project, though. It just doesn't force you to name it when you start the project. We'll double-click the Untitled project here for this. Once you've done that, you're presented with the Cut page in Resolve. At the bottom of the screen are buttons for the various modules or pages inside of the application. For what we will be doing here, we only need Edit and Deliver. So I'll go up to the Workspace menu and turn off the ones that we don't need for this tutorial to simplify things for us. In the lower right is a gear icon that will allow us to change our project settings. Click on this and under frame rate, select 29.97. This is typically the frame rate you'll be recording at. However, if you're recording your screen video at a different frame rate, such as 60, set that value here. I record at 29.97. Also, make sure the playback frame rate matches your selection above, or you'll have audio sync issues. I record in 1920 by 1080, but if you record in a different resolution, you can set that value here as well. Once you've made your changes, click Save. Now, click on the gear icon again. At the top of the options screen is Presets. Click on that. Right mouse click on Current Project. Then select the Save as User Default Config. This change will ensure that Resolve will always default to your choice of resolution and frame rate that we just set for new projects that you create. In the Resolve menu at the upper left is the Preferences. Select this. At the top is 2 pages that we could select from, System and User. Click on User. On the left hand, the second option is Project Save and Load. Click on that. Under Save Settings, click on Live Save. Then click Save at the bottom to save this setting and dismiss this dialog box. This will make Resolve automatically save each change that you make in your edit in the project as you do it. As with any complex application, Resolve can crash. You don't want to lose a bunch of work that you've done in your project, and this will ensure that that never happens. I'll point out also that Resolve doesn't save its project as standalone files like some other editors, like say Adobe Premiere does. It uses a database and stores all the projects in one location and one database file. You can back this up, but I won't cover that in this video. It's not intended to be a comprehensive tutorial on how to use Resolve. This tutorial is focused on how to create the split screen that I used in my last video. If you decide you want to learn more about Resolve, I would recommend that you check out YouTuber Casey Ferris. He runs a YouTube channel that specializes in tutorials for Resolve, and his channel is linked in the description. Resolve is an incredibly deep application you could spend months learning. I'll do my best to keep it simple and on point here. At the bottom you can see we have 2 pages now to select from, Edit and Deliver. Once we finish our edit, we'll use the Deliver page to create the final video output for upload to YouTube or whatever you want to do with it. The left part of our edit page is the media pool, and this is where we're going to put clips that we're going to use in our project. The right side is split into 2 sections. The upper section has 2 video monitors. The left monitor, or source monitor, is where we will look at clips before we add them to our edit. And the right side is the timeline monitor, and this will show us what our final edit looks like. Below this is the timeline where all of the actual assembly of the clips will take place. The first thing I'm going to do is save the project so I can give it a name. Press Ctrl S and you'll be prompted for a name for the project. Once saved, the project name will appear up here. I'll add my 2 flight clips to the media pool now. They're in a folder in my videos folder called Capture. There are a number of ways to add clips in Resolve, but I'll use the simplest method, which is just to drag and drop them into the media pool like this. I want the clips to start at the same point so they're synchronized. I'll double-click on the first clip and Resolve loads it into the left source monitor like this. Below the monitor is a bar that I can use to scroll through the clip. In editing parlance, this is called scrubbing. I need to scrub to the point where the aircraft just starts to move. Once I find the first frame of movement, I press the I key to indicate the start or end point for the clip. Notice that the bar across the bottom of the clip now has an indicator that runs from the current location to the end of the clip. Now I can move my scrubbing to the end that I want to set when the aircraft stops moving. In this instance, I want to stop it before it stops moving since the mouse comes into the frame to pause the sim. I just scrub up to the frame before the mouse pointer appears. This is just my preference to not show the mouse pointer in the recording. At this point, I press O to mark the end or out point. Now you can see the scrubbing bar highlight is between my in and out point selections. You can also click and drag on the ends of the highlight bar here to adjust those in and out points if you need to. Now I click inside the viewer and drag it to the right side timeline monitor like this. Now we have a number of options to choose from as to how we want to add this footage to our edit. I'm still holding down the left mouse button here, by the way. If I release it before I choose one of these options, it will just put the clip back on the source monitor and do nothing. Since this is the very first clip in the edit, I will use the insert option at the top like this. Doing so made Resolve create a new element in the media pool that you can see here. This is our timeline that appears in the screen over here with our edit. You can have multiple timelines in a given project if you need them. Clicking on the name in the media pool, I can change the name of the timeline if I so desire. Also note that the name of the currently active timeline appears above the viewer on the right side. The arrow next to it would allow us to select any other timelines we might have created in this project. Now I double-click on clip 2 in the media pool like this to open it in the left side viewer just as we did before, and I perform the same steps again for that clip. Once I have my in and out selected, I drag the clip over to the right side viewer and select the Append to End option. In the timeline, I click and drag the second clip up, and this creates a new video and audio track that we'll need to create the split screen. Since we will have two aircraft playing back at the same time, it doesn't make sense to have the audio playing for both clips at the same time, so I'll remove the audio. I click in the timeline's blank area to remove the selection on the second clip, then I Alt-click on the green section audio track. Alt-clicking lets me select just the audio or just the video if that's what I wanted. Then I can hit the backspace key like so and remove it. I'll do the same for the first clip as well. Obviously, it's up to you how you want to handle the audio part of this. Now, I click and drag the second clip over the top of the first clip. In this instance, you can see that the top clip is slightly longer than the bottom one. If I hover over that edge of the clip, I get this double bar indicator. It means that there's media before and after the end of the clip. I just click and drag it so that it matches up the bottom clip like so. It has a magnetic effect and snaps to the end of the bottom clip for me to make the change accurate. The green edge on the end of the top clip is an indicator to show that this cut point is currently selected. I'm going to move this orange playback head into the middle of these two clips like this by clicking in the ruler area at the top. In the upper right of the screen is the inspector button, and I click it to open the inspector. Now I click on the top clip to make sure it's selected and the changes that I make using the inspector apply to that clip. At the top here we have transform. That lets me zoom, reposition the clip, and some other things, but we don't need that right now, so I click on the word transform here to collapse it out of our way. Below it is the cropping tool, and that's what we want. If you're using Adobe Premiere, the crop tool is in your effects library and you have to add it to the clip. Clicking on the word cropping expands the tool. The orange slider to the left allows us to turn the effect on and off at will without changing any of the settings. Let's play with the right crop setting. Watch the results in the right timeline monitor. Now, as you can see, we have a split screen. The upper clip in the timeline always blocks the lower clip from view. By cropping the right side of the clip, we reveal the clip underneath it. I'll click in an empty area of the timeline, hit the home button to put the playback bar at the start, then hit the space bar to start playback. There we have our split screen playback. We can reverse the sides by cropping the left side instead of the right like this. Obviously, we can do a horizontal split using the top and bottom crop controls as well. Returning to the right side crop, the softness control allows us to soften the line of the split like this. The circle arrow at the right side allows us to reset the control to its default setting. Clicking in the timeline window again, I'll hit the home key and we'll animate the split screen. I'll play the clip a little and then set the point where I want the split to start happening. That looks good for a starting point. On the right crop control is this little diamond to the right of it. We click it to set a starting point for the crop like this, and it turns orange to let us know that it's active. I can click the play button under the right side viewer and set a point where I want the animated split to stop like this. I click the square button to stop it, and I go over to the crop tool and I set the right crop to about the middle of the frame like so. Notice that the diamond turned orange when I did that to indicate this is the point where I want the animation to end. Now I click in the timeline and hit home and we play it back. It's pretty slow, but we'll adjust that in a moment. Notice that next to the diamond is a little caret. Click that to go to the point where you made your change like this. It went to the end of the split animation. I click it again and get to the start like this. Notice that the caret is now on the other side of the diamond to allow me to jump in that direction like so. I click in a blank area of the timeline. The reason I do that is so that I know the timeline is the currently active element. Then I can click Control plus to zoom in on the timeline like this. Control minus zooms out, and Shift Z will fit the timeline to the view. On the right side of the clip that we have the crop active in, we can see a little diamond. Clicking this will reveal where we set the cropping changes. Moving the playhead away, you can see this is where I said to start the split, and this is where I said to end it. You can click and drag these to move them around after they've been set. For example, as I said before, the split is pretty slow, so I can drag the rightmost indicator over to the left, and now when we play it back, the split speeds up. You can change where it starts and ends using this control. These little markers are called keyframes, by the way. As a final note, you can use this same animation technique on any of the settings in the inspector window that have the little diamond icon on them. This applies to any control with a diamond next to it anywhere in Resolve. Let's add some titles here. I'll turn off the keyframe display like so. At the top upper left of the screen, we have the effects library, so I'll open that up. So we can see more of it, I'll close the media pool by clicking on the media pool button up here. On the left side, under Toolbox, we have Titles. I click on that. I'll select this basic title for this. I click in the open area of the timeline and press Ctrl-A to select both clips. Then I drag them over to the right to make room for our title. Now I click and drag the title from the toolbox into the timeline like this. I click on it to select it and drag it to the start of the timeline. To close the gap here, I click on the gap to select it and press the delete key. Now I hit the home key to get to the start of our video. On the right timeline viewer, we have the title displayed, and in the inspector pane, we have the edit box. I will change the title to an appropriate appellation by typing it here. I want it to fade up from black, so I zoom in on the beginning of the timeline, and I create the fade in by dragging this little handle to the right like so. I want it to fade at the end, so I'll do the same thing at the other end, but drag it left. Now I click play to check my results. Let's add a title to each side of our split screen. Let's pretend that the left side is a before clip and the right side is an after clip for comparison. I select the title element from the toolbox as I did before, and this time we put it over the top of the set of clips in the timeline. I'll click and drag the end of it and stretch it out so that it's the same length as the set of clips below it. Let's set its text to say before, and let's adjust the color of the text and the font and add a stroke to it to make it stand out. In the inspector window with the text element selected, I'll use Arial Black for the font. I can click here and choose a color for the text. Yellow will stand out. Down below here is the stroke option, and I'll choose a 5-pixel stroke. Okay, now the text really pops. Using the position control in the inspector, I click on the X value and drag the mouse left to change its value and move the text over to the left side of the screen like this. The screen is getting a little crowded here, so I can hover over the line that separates the audio and video track regions until the mouse cursor becomes a double line like this. Now I click and drag down to give us some more room in the video track area. But the video tracks are still a little too big for my taste since we want to add another text track to the top. I press Shift and use the mouse wheel while the mouse hovers over the video track area. This lets me adjust the height of those tracks like this. If we had audio tracks, we could do the same by hovering over those. Now I click our before text element in the timeline. I hold down the Alt key and drag the mouse up to create a duplicate of the before text element just like this. Now with our new text element track selected, I go into the inspector, hover over the X position value again, click and drag the mouse to the right, and the text is moved over to the right side of the frame. All I need to do now is change the text itself to be after like this. Now that we've finished our edit, we're ready to use the Deliver module or page. At the bottom of the screen, click on the Deliver icon. On this page, we also have a timeline, but it's just for display. You can't edit on it here. You can zoom in and out with the same keys as the edit page, so a Shift-Z here will display the whole thing for us like this. One setting I highly recommend is this one up here. Click this ellipse and select Updates During Renders and set it to Off. This will speed up the render process by about half. At the upper left, you have a wide variety of different presets for different targets. I've selected the one for YouTube. It'll choose a resolution and frame rate that matches your edit. I click the Browse button to select an output location for the final edit like this. I'll use my Captures folder. I type a name in the file box like this and click Save. At the bottom left is a button that says Add Render to Queue. Click this and we'll see an element appear on the right side of the screen up here. You can create multiple render jobs and queue them up for processing all at once if you like. For us, we just have the one. Below this is the Render button marked Render All, so go ahead and click that. The indicator above it will show progress and an ETA as well. As you can see, it can take a while to do a render, so that updates during render being turned off is cutting our render time in half, believe it or not. Once it's completed, it'll indicate that with this completed text at the top. Switching to my Captures folder, I can see the file is indeed there. A double click on it will launch the Windows Media Player and we can see what we have. So that's it. I've only scratched the surface with what you can do in Resolve, so I encourage you to check out Casey Ferris's YouTube channel. Check out some of the amazing and creative things you can do with this very deep application. I hope this video helps someone out there. If you liked the video, please hit like, as that really helps. And until the next video, take care.